Chapter 7 is on photosynthesis. I covered this chapter in this course because it is related to plant biology, and it's also related to the information later in the semester on ecology and food chains. The notes are fairly brief. This video will also be brief. Now, this is the photosynthesis equation, a short summary of the photosynthesis equation. This is carbon dioxide, water, light, energy. This goes in. This produces a molecule of simple sugar, glucose, and some oxygen. Okay? Now, the first section goes over autotrophs. Autotrophs are organisms that produce their own food, converting energy from a non-food source. Photoautotrophs do this using photosynthesis. What's happening is that light energy is being used to produce food energy. See, sugar has calories. That's food energy, right? The energy came from the sun in photosynthesis. So a photoautotroph does that. Now, certain bacteria are also chemoautotrophs, breaking inorganic compounds basically to do the same thing. So we're converting energy from light to the chemical energy of food. But the stuff the food is made of has to come from a carbon source. So the carbon source is here, and of course the H's and the O's come from the splitting of water. So those are autotrophs. Now plants, algae, cyanobacteria, they are the photoautotrophs that provide food for the rest of the food chain. Now in plants, photosynthesis occurs in organelles called chloroplasts. They contain the green pigment chlorophyll. Chlorophyll absorbs light, and when you absorb light, the energy can be converted. Now section 5 contains most of what I want you to know about the process of photosynthesis. There are two main steps in this process. They're called the light reactions and they're called the Calvin cycle. So the light reactions and the Calvin cycle, there's a drawing here. The light reactions take light energy and convert it into ATP and a coenzyme called NADPH. This happens in the light, water is split, oxygen is produced. Now, the rest of it is called the Calvin cycle. In older books, it's known as the dark reactions, but they don't have to occur in the dark. What the Calvin cycle does is it takes the energy from the ATP and the coenzyme NADPH and uses it to convert carbon dioxide to sugar. That's known as carbon fixation. Okay, carbon fixation. So be sure to read the notes and the section on that, because sections 8 through 11 cover a lot of gory details, but I want you to stick to what I gave you in the notes, especially from section 5. Now let's go to section 6. Light is electromagnetic energy, and in your book it discusses the electromagnetic spectrum. Some of it is visible light, but visible light is split up into the colors of the rainbow. Now when white light hits a pigment, some of the wavelengths are absorbed and some of the wavelengths are reflected. So let's assume that the light coming from these fluorescent bulbs is pure white. When it hits a white board, pretty much all of the wavelengths that are mixed in are reflected and come to you being viewed as white. Whereas the black ink absorbs nearly all of the wavelengths, reflects very little, and appears dark. But green appears green because the green wavelength is reflected to you and the other wavelengths are absorbed. Same thing with red or with blue. Chlorophyll is green because green is reflected. The non-green wavelengths are absorbed, and it's the non-green wavelengths that are used to power photosynthesis. So again, read the notes in the book on that. Sections 8 through 11 cover gory details of photosynthesis, but again, I want you to pay attention to what I gave you in section 5. Section 12 is a review of the whole thing. Be sure to read that section. It should answer any remaining questions you have. Section 13 relates this process to atmospheric carbon dioxide and that hypothesis of the greenhouse effect and climate change and so forth, because what photosynthesis does is it removes carbon dioxide and fixes it into an organic material. See, but when organic material is combusted, it produces carbon dioxide. Of course, we also breathe out carbon dioxide when we metabolize organic material for food. And that concludes this chapter's review.